Hello, everyone. When we experience difficult moments such as meltdowns and maybe ongoing meltdowns in the home, it can be so devastating. As therapists, when we have meltdowns in our sessions, that's equally devastating. In fact, we try to prevent that as far as we can so that everybody could have a pleasurable experience of being together. Sometimes it's unavoidable, though, and things do happen. If we can prevent it, one way of preventing meltdowns is to play nonverbal games with the child in good times, in regular times. And in those nonverbal games, when we are not talking, learn your child's cueing. Learn the kind of signs and signals they give so that you can start to discern maybe ahead of time, we're heading up for an escalation. When we also understand that the child is not having a meltdown because he is deciding to make a moment difficult for you, when we realize that a meltdown has much more to do about them rather than us, then we can have some presence of mind to step back in our mind at that moment and regard the moment with neutrality and, if you can, some warmth and empathy. Even though the child may be throwing all kinds of words at you and may even be lashing out and thrashing about. So when we understand our child's cueing, perhaps there's ways that we can prevent meltdowns from happening or the escalation to get to a place where it's just not going to be good. So that's one thing that we can do to prevent. And then when we get the cues, we can downregulate as much as we can. The biggest thing here when it comes to meltdowns is to understand that our co-regulation of the moment has got a whole lot to do with how the child is experiencing the moment. If the child gets up into a place of anger and gets us up into a place of disappointment and just becoming very aggravated by the fact that, oh my, can you just stop? You're making it uncomfortable for everybody, right? When he gets that, they feed off that sympathetic arousal. What we have to remember, if the child is projecting their own inner turmoil onto you, and it's a lot more about them than it is about you, it's hard to understand that because it feels very personal when they are attacking you. But know this, when the baby was little, when he was little, when she was little, she basically called out to you when she needed you. And then you came and you, oh, come on, baby. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And we hold them in our arms and we tap them on their backs and we regulate them into a place of security and safety again. When my 4-year-old, when my 14-year-old is doing that exact same dysregulating behavior, they're calling on that same feeling that you gave them when you nurtured them as a baby. That's what they want. They will never admit it, especially when they're a teenager. And in fact, you can't go and hold them like a little baby and rock them anymore, especially when it's a teenager, right? But in your mind, you have to figure out, how do I stay the course here with this child so that my child can feel like I'm still there and I'm still available for that co-regulation? That's what we want to think about. So when things haven't aligned right and I didn't catch it in time, we have to remember that a meltdown causes a sympathetic arousal inside of the system. And that sympathetic arousal threatens to overwhelm the child. And when that happens, whenever they get more sympathetic arousal from the environment and from the people that care about the environment, it increases and escalates, and pretty soon you have a full-blown something on your hands that you really were trying to prevent in the first place. This situation is we want to prevent. And remember that when you're trying something new for the first time, almost it's never going to work the first time because they know you've tried so many techniques before and nothing lasted because you try something new, you try something new. This one works if you apply it consistently. So usually for my families, I ask them to have a weekend at home where they're not having any other commitments. And then they can stay the course. Each time a meltdown happens, they can stay the course. And they can stay with the child and co-regulate them down from that ledge. It doesn't mean taking the job over for them, though. It means that we become what we call an amygdala whisperer. The amygdala is our fight and flight system that's always on the ready. When we're feeling threatened, it kicks in, right? And so what we want to do is we want to say, no, 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 amygdala, just stay, okay. It's okay. We want to sort of stroke the amygdala into a place of, okay, I can retreat again. I don't have to be out there. That's what we want to do. And so in order to do that, we have to think about time in and not time out. Time in is when we are staying with them and saying, I understand that you are overwhelmed and feeling out of control of your emotion. And if I leave you on your own, you're going to feel even more out of control. But if I stay with you, even if I don't say a single word, you feel validated and you feel heard, even though you're not even asking for that verbally. So when we have, what we do then is that now the emotion is there, the behavior is there, and we're feeling, here we are, right? You kneel down to the child's eye level. You don't touch them, you stay with them, and you don't say much at all. Now is not the time to say, if you keep doing this, you're going to lose your iPad time. Can you just calm down? Can you just not talk? Don't say those kind of words to me. Don't lash out like that to me, right? When we say those kind of words, which is natural in all of us, there's no judgment here. It's natural to want to say that. But when we say those words, it increases the escalation. And I think we all know that, then power struggles happen and it's just not going to look good. It's not going to be there, right? So what we do is we kneel down on level, we stay in their proximity without touching, and we simply say, I'm here. In your mind, you're that same mother that's holding your baby and tapping it rhythmically on the back. That's what you're doing. And then you're saying, I'm here. And the child's like, ah, da, 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 da. I'm here. I'm here. You don't have to say, I'm here for you. They get it. And then your presence of mind, your calmness, your soothing voice, or neutral voice, if you can't manage soothing, we know it's hard. Your calm demeanor, you're not thrashing about your own body, you're not grabbing at them, you're not showing them a physicality, you're just simply there. That speaks. It speaks to the child, no matter the age. Now, as I said, the first times you do that, they may do exactly what they always do. But if you consistently stay it, some of my parents say that when they really carry it off over the weekend, they can decrease the meltdown behavior by at least 50% in just 2 days. And don't train it in a mall or in a public arena. You must train it at home first. Okay? So once they've calmed down, once they have gotten out of the moment of that higher escalation, they're still not quite there, but you can see they're getting more ready to sort of just not go there. Then I could say something like, that was hard. That was hard. And if I had to do a lot of the co-regulating, then I would say, we got through it. But if they did a lot of the work themselves and they only just needed me to be there, then I would say, you got through it. Because kids know when we're patronizing them and they know how much they can own. So you don't want to give them more or less. So I would give them the feedback. We got through this. You got through this, right? And then I would say something about their body so they can know what they used in order to deregulate and then self-regulate. I would say, oh, I see that you're not breathing so hard anymore. I see that you're not kicking at me anymore. Oh, you're not saying those ugly words anymore. And then the kids, you can feel that, they don't want to have that accusation. And you just, we got through it. So when you see them rising again, we got through it. We're good. We are good. Then you take the child right back to what happened in the first place to cause this uproar. If it was math homework, take him back there. If he clobbered his sister over the head with a shoe, take him back there to say, I'm sorry. Whatever it was, a meltdown is never a reason to get out of anything. And you want to stretch some positive growth reward. So then you take them maybe back to the math homework. But in your mind, because you knew it was hard and there's a reason why this triggered this behavior, maybe we'll go back and say, you know what? I know that there are 3 sums there still to do. Let's just do 1 and we'll call it a day. But do something to help them see they overcame and they did go back and they were successful to some degree, some success. And then you can give the feedback again. That was really tough, but you finished it. Way to go, bud. Then you leave it. You don't stay like this and say, oh, you're so amazing and awesome. They don't like that anyway. Too intense, okay? You leave them. And then later that night when they're watching television and watching maybe a show, go and sit next to them. Put your hand around them and say, hey, bud, I just want to talk about what happened earlier this evening with math. What now? Right? Say, well, I just want to say that I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you that it was really tough, was hard, and you went back to it and you did finish that 1 sum. Good for you. I just want you to know we're okay. It's so important that children know, especially when they're very little, when they're feeling like they're doing bad things, they don't want to lose your countenance. So they need to know that you're okay with them after a bad moment. But they also almost, I want to say, probably just as much needed when they're a teenager. They're just going to ask for it less. And they're not going to respond like they're going to respond like a 3-year-old. A 3-year-old's going to cuddle and hug into you, right? But a 14-year-old is going to say, whatever. But they hear you. They hear you. So make the repair happen and move on. If during that repair you feel like it's part of the mantra of your household to do a negative consequence for behavior, then that's the time that you would introduce that. Most of the times I find that it's not necessary really, that if you just work on the relationship and the fact that we accept each other for whatever comes to the table, then oftentimes what I find, their meltdowns decrease anyway because they want to ultimately please you. And I don't always like the idea that they're not going to melt down because they're afraid of losing their iPad time, or they're afraid of you're going to take their favorite movie away, right? That the fear response is also sympathetic arousal. And I want to get them out of the sympathetic arousal. So most of the times I find it just helpful to let them know that we're okay. That even though that behavior happened, and that's not what we want to see, I still am okay with you. I find that that brings about the positive growth reward more. Co-regulation leads to self-regulation. A child who has difficulty self-regulating, no matter the age, needs a model from the people he cares about that shows what self-regulation means. When we co-regulate, we're modeling to the child calmness, self-control, and this is what self-regulation looks like. I know it's hard. When you mess up, which we are, because we're human, when you go back to that repair stage, you can say to them, hey, bud, this was a hard moment this morning. It was really tough. And I should not have yelled at you the way that I did. I'm sorry. I still don't like what you did and how you responded, but I shouldn't have yelled that way either. That repair and that modeling of I'm sorry carries a whole weight and wisdom for them to take with them forward. Sometimes parents feel like that makes them more vulnerable, or it makes them lose their authority if they say I'm sorry. No. Think about yourselves when you were little kids and what it would have meant to you if your parent did say they were sorry, right? It's a great moment and opportunity for learning. Okay. Thank you for listening. Take care.